flag salute and a moment of silence for the first division meeting. You want to do roll call then, Jen?
No, it's recorded.
Okay. How do we have it, Mr. President?
I would have noted that you
Okay, I'd like to recognize the guests. As you know, this is our combined work session and voting meeting, so it'll be a little longer than the regular work session, but hopefully we can get through it pretty quick. Item D, recognition of meetings, November 8th, from 7:07 to 7:45. We had our regular session meeting. Presentations, pride and promises. Mr. Swarthy.
So before he goes, I want to explain to the new people, some of you have been here, but Pride and Promise is our opportunity once a month to recognize something good going on in the district. Could be employee, could be student, could be a community member, something that grabs our attention, something that makes us really proud of Laurel, and this is one such occasion. Mr. Short.
So this month, Dave Germansky is winner of the Pride and Promise Award. Couple reasons. First, back-to-back championships. But on top of that, I'm sure you're all aware that we had a student athlete get injured. Dave took it upon himself to get on and see that athlete, take him the championship trophy, spend some time with him, and then after being out all night, he still came to work the next day. He shows that same dedication and pride in what he does with those kids at the elementary school and the gym. So I wanted to make sure to recognize him for the time he puts in here. So, thank you.
So Dave, you're an alum as well, you're an employee. Any words for the board relative to Pride and Promise or anything else?
No, I've been doing junior high football this is my 19th season actually. So I started when I was a sophomore in college, and I mean, as I look around the room, I've had a lot of your kids on my teams and my classroom, and it's just a special place because it's really wanted to make me become a coach. My experience here as a student. And I learned so much from football and just my education here, and I wanted to pass that along to the students here. So football gives me an opportunity to do that, and along with my teaching. But football, especially, you spend so much time with these guys. I mean, from March to October, and it's truly like a family, because all of our coaches went to Laurel, played for Laurel, Bill Jones and Dylan Jones, and now I'm starting to have like people I coach, like their kids, and it starts to make me feel pretty old after a while, but I enjoy it. So,
Well, we enjoy you. I also, as far as curriculum goes, look at his curriculum online sometime. Look at the detail. It's no surprise that the detail we see on the football field is also the detail in the classroom. And I wish you had the opportunity to see him in action in phys ed. It's not recess. They're having a hell of a good time, and lo and behold, they're learning skills as well. So, I just think you do an exemplary job in your job, in your chosen extracurricular, which is your passion. And then no one expected you to be in Pittsburgh at 3 a.m, but you expected that of yourself. So, thank you to you. One more round of applause for you.
I just would like to say, you are very appreciated around here. When I look at coaches, I look at wins and losses, but I also look at what a role model a coach is. And you've done a very good job. I think you set a good example for these kids. So
thank you very much.
Mrs. Columbus is going to get a picture with you and your award. Where do you want to do that? Yeah, I'd like to whip that back.
Yeah, sure.
Congratulations, Coach.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
So there's always one good thing you can take away from him.
Item A, administrator reports. Mr. Shea.
Transportation this month, we had a driver meeting, just get these guys ready for winter, get them prepared to get here early and get the buses checked over and take their time out there and pay attention to what's going on. We've had a little bit of winter already and got some taste of it already, and we're already not wanting to drive. And I told them this is so get ready. We have a couple new drivers getting ready to test. We had one test yesterday, she passed, so we got one ready to go. The other one's testing next week. Hopefully we can get her done too. Transmission on my one bus we talked about last month. We're ready to go, but the transmission is on back order.
do they have any estimated?
They told me 4 to 5 weeks, that was 3 weeks ago, so hopefully it'll be too far.
Mr. Jermansky, you aren't required to stay. If you don't.
I'll stick around. I haven't been to one in a while.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Any questions for Mr. Shea? Mr. Nova?
We replaced the bearings in an elementary rooftop heater this past month. We replaced all the water filters and all the water fountains in the elementary. We have some univent motors going bad. 414 was the last one we did here at the high school. And we're in the stages going through all the classrooms and doing light bulbs and as many as we can in the hallways. Hopefully, get through our budget time. We'd like to start looking at maybe sections at a time with LED bulbs in maybe hallways or classrooms or wing at a time, starting with the elementary, and we'll propose that coming up shortly, the next month or two.
We happy how the roof went?
Yes, they did a nice job. The weather was great. We couldn't ask for
Yes.
better weather. So it finished up, and any issues that we had, especially in the freshman room, it was a lot of lead insulation in that one area. It was all removed and replaced. So other than that, it needs sealed. We did for 33 years in that area.
Yeah, I had numerous people complaining to me, they're like, it's taking so long. I was like, you should worry if it's going too fast. I was like, they don't want to be here any longer than they have to be. So the idea that they were pumping so much product up there and taking so long, I looked as a positive. Like they were, I don't know how much tar or whatever they pumped up there. My God, they were camped out there.
That was,
They only do so many squirts a day in case they get it opened up and the weather turns.
Right.
At least they can get it undercover quick.
No, I thought it was just looking at how much, I don't know anything about what they do, but just looking at how much material they kept pushing up to the roof was impressive. So,
It looks good. I was up there with that. I got pictures of it. I
Oh,
can
wow.
show you later. In fact, there's a water system we're gonna be putting in, and that be down in the basement. I have pictures of that later too, when we get to that, just to give you guys an idea of what we're working on, so.
that's it.
Any questions for Mr. Medved? Mrs. Bell?
I always report on the school-wide positive behavior support program at the elementary. For the new board members, we have a Spartans 200 board outside the cafeteria, and every student who earns a green card, then their name goes on that board. And when we get 10 in a row, we call it a bingo. And those kids that got 10 in a row, then we try to pick a cool prize. So we had a bingo recently. So I listed in my board report that the lucky students who, and this time we allowed either they could pick an Amazon gift card or pick something from Santa Land because that was coming up. So those are the students that won that. So that was cool. As far as our data for school-wide this month, we didn't have any outlying behaviors that, wanted us to change our intervention. We're still giving green cards out for being safe, kind, and responsible. So we're around 11 referrals a month still at the elementary. So nothing of concern. December is 13th going to be our IST meeting. And again, for new board members, we have a process to provide services for students prior to any type of referral. So our IST is instructional support. We cover academic and behavior concerns in this meeting. And we currently are servicing 28 regular ed students, either academic or behavior interventions. And Mrs. Stewart is our instructional support teacher. So that's in addition to title, and it services K to 6. At the high school, we have a fun and exciting bocce team led by Mrs. Jessica Miles and Amanda Long, and they are doing an amazing job. If any of you guys can make it out to any of their games, I've listed the games here. December 20th is our first game against Laurel here at home. And I also wanted to say, they are also running the coffee cart, raising money. They're incorporating regular ed kids in with the special ed kids. So again, if you ever see those two, give them a pat on the back because they are doing some amazing work. We have a high school transition program, which I wanted to highlight. Mrs. Bintram is in charge of that, and give Ben Franklin's compliments on allowing our students to go there and provide job coaching. We have quite a few students who they've employed after or in summer employment, but it gives us an opportunity to provide students with job experience. If you can take a walk down the 100 hallway here at the high school before you leave tonight, or if you're ever in the building, it's decorated. And it was the teachers, the bocce club, and the art club that did that hallway. So it's pretty cool this year. Lastly, I submitted my December 1st submission for special ed count. This determines our IDA funds, and it tells us how many percentages of special ed kids we have and goes into our funding. So I just finished and submitted that. Cameron's going to submit it up to the state by December 15th. We're right at 11.8 will be our 24-25 projection when that comes out. So 11.8 identified. And again, the year before we were at 10.9. So we're maintaining under state average for our identification. Sorry, I was lengthy, but I wanted to explain stuff for new board members.
Where is the bocce?
It's going to be in the main gym. And there's going to be a big pep assembly before the game on December 20th, where the students are going to play the staff, and they're going to have the band and the cheer. Mr. is helping to coordinate that. So it's a big deal.
Any questions for Mrs. Bell? Mr. Schroeder?
Of course, we did our quarter one report cards were posted and emailed, and we actually just did our quarter two progress report, so we're halfway through that. We had our family math and reading fun night, something that we've kind of transitioned into. What we wanted to involve the parents and the kids together, give them some fun activities and some games that they could do here at school, and then maybe extend it into the home. So we do that each year. So that was, I think we had about 300 people in total, including kids and parents. It was a good night. They get a book, they can find a place to read, and they can also win prizes in their games. The elementary hoopathon is something we do every year. It's something else that Mr. Jermanski does. He facilitates and coordinates that. We raised over $1,500 this year, and we split that money. Half will go to Project Hope, and the other half will go to our Spartan Bread Basket. And then, of course, we collected food for the food drive, for the Thanksgiving distribution. We're also collecting stuff for right now in December for Christmas as well.
Any questions for Mr. Schroeder? Thank you. Mr. Lane?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome, new board members. Some highlights of the high school. We had NHS induction on the November 13th. That went well. We have 2 new NHS advisors, 2 new teachers. So, it was the first time they went or to go around with that. So that everything was coordinated. Everything
Fresh our
was fine.
memories, who took that on?
Madison Clark, our calculus teacher, and Miss Antoine, our school nurse.
Was that a different date than it was supposed on the calendar?
Yeah, because they were 2 new and we moved it back because they had a little
Okay.
time organizing it and everything.
Because I came up the night it was supposed to be, and then I
Sorry
didn't.
about that.
So, but, okay, I was wondering.
Yeah, with 2 newbies there, we had a little bit of extra time to get everything organized and running, but they got it done. For those who have students going through, we did a lip dub video. For those who don't know, just a brief background, it's a lip sync video to Christmas songs, every club activity. We spent the day on Monday the 20th, staff organized it, students ran with it, they're taped it, they're cutting it together. They're going to show that video at the holiday assembly on the 22nd, and then we'll put it out on YouTube for the community to see. It's a pretty neat thing for the whole school environment to get involved. Miss Columbus and I did very little, and it went by.
And you will see that we are not actors.
Yes, we're in the beginning of it, so you can fast forward right at the beginning. So, but it'll be interesting to see that, and everybody will see that on the 22nd. Like I said, we'll push that out on YouTube for the community to see. We had our student council talent show on November 21st before Thanksgiving. That went well. All the students participated. That also was live streamed. If you wanted to check that out, that's on the YouTube channel as well. Student Council Court of Caring. It's new for me, obviously being a newbie here. For those who went through Laurel, it's probably something that you've experienced, but I'm just amazed every day on the initiatives. And Mr. Swervely already talked about fundraising at the elementary. Same thing at the high school. There's so many different fundraisers and community involvement going on right now, especially with the Court of Caring. But there's going to be a lot of people that are going to benefit from our Laurel community. in what the students are doing right now currently. December 6th, today, like Mr. Sherby said, that's halfway through the second 9 weeks already, surprisingly. Upcoming events, we have the choral concert tomorrow night, and we have the band concert next Thursday, both at 7 o'clock in the auditorium. And as Ms. Bell mentioned, we'll have an all-school assembly to promote the new unified bocce team. And we'll get some faculty together to play against our bocce team. Hopefully we can promote that so some students can stay after school that day for our first home game against Newcastle. So we're trying to push that out to them. My experience in my past experiences, it's a pretty unique situation where you have both special ed and regular ed students competing on the same platform. Pretty cool. And then finally, hopefully by the January meeting, I'll have the 24-25 course catalog ready for your approval and your review. The department heads and the teachers are going through the course catalog as we speak. I'll go through it over Christmas, and hopefully we'll have it for you in January. Start the scheduling already.
Any questions for Mr. Wright? I did have one question. I don't know who Ms. Columbus might answer. I saw on Facebook they're selling the new yearbooks are out for sale. Did we ever get last year's yearbooks yet?
No, when last time I checked, the company promised them by Thanksgiving, and that didn't happen.
Okay.
So we'll follow up on it though and see how quickly they are.
Is this the same company that we're having this year, or?
Yeah, it's we have a new yearbook sponsor this school year. So to sort of keep some consistency, he stayed, but he has met with some other companies. So if we need to move on, if that's not happening, we can.
Okay, just curious.
No, it's a good question.
Yeah, we transitioned to a new advisor, so that transition time
Right.
took up some of that.
Okay, well, I get questions all the time about it, and I just, I say that it's, like you say, it's a good person.
And Mr. DiBiase has been posting on the Spartan page that any updates with the yearbook on there, so.
Okay, Mrs. Columbus.
So Ms. Bell talked about the 200 Club at the elementary. We also have the Principal's 200 Club here at the high school. The showcase right by the ramp going to the auditorium has ours. We had 20 winners that we just passed out, and they earned cards from Ben Franklin's. So Mr. Jacobs from Ben Franklin was one of our Pride and Promise winners. Earlier, I believe it was October, he donated enough cards to cover us for the year, along with we have other prizes too coming up for high school kids to get I think it's a burger or a sandwich, and then elementary for them to get a kid's meal. So there's plenty of cards. They do a lot to support our kids here. Mr. Leif already mentioned, I'm sorry, because I'm in both buildings, sometimes I repeat things that are happening. He already mentioned about the 2 concerts that are coming up here at the high school, but I also wanted to mention the elementary concert is also on December 19th. Our arts department there too, our kids are involved in PMEAs, which is band and choir. You have to audition with other school districts in order to perform and be part of that. And I believe that's later this week, and then the honors band, I believe, is next week. So we have students that are participating in that also. Student council had a middle school dance. It was a little semi-formal dance on November 17th. Students, I think, paid like $5 and brought in canned goods to help go towards that can drive. Speaking of the can drive for student council, they collected they collected 6,495 cans and collected $1,771 and enough to fill 2 buses, and they delivered it to 4 different organizations prior to Thanksgiving. I'm completing my formal classroom observations, and then I'll be going back into the classrooms and doing walkthroughs. And then something I wanted to try to do also at the elementary to get to know the students a little better is I'm doing this little read with the principal. So students that are working in Title I, when they met their goal of reading, they were able to come to my office and read with me. And then I also went into the Head Start classroom this month and went in and read with them. I completed my PILS classes. PILS classes are PA Inspired Leadership classes that all principals have to take, especially new principals. I'm considered a newer principal because I have my level 1, so I'm working towards my level 2. And that's about it.
Any questions for Mrs. Columbus?
I think it's cool reading with the kids. That's a different level or something. I think that's a pretty good idea.
I didn't mention, I also went into one of the classes, Mrs. Hardesky's classroom, and I did math lessons with him too.
Now you're just
With
showing
a
off.
book. Well, if I'm gonna say it, I'm gonna do it all.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Lee.
All right, welcome new school board members. All right, just a couple things. Just want to give a real quick update about E-rate. E-rate is a federal program that subsidizes a lot of our technology. It rules in a 3-year rolling program. I just want to give you a heads up. I have submitted all of our documentation for funding year 23, which was actually, or 24, which is next year. 23, which is 24, excuse me. So all of our documentation is in. We're in line to continue to receive our subsidies. Not this year coming up, but the following year is when we get our big 5-year bucket of money where we could start to begin to plan and see how would be best to utilize those resources. But that's how we got network infrastructure. It also subsidizes our commodity internet coming into the building. So those are just a couple of the items that we received through this program. Mrs. Bell spoke to PIMS. Just want to give you a quick update. And as we were talking, I'm thinking, wow, Mr. Rich, we probably should put together an acronym cheat sheet for our board members because you're going to get a ton of them. But PIMS stands for Pennsylvania Information Management System. It's our state reporting, which ultimately reports to the federal government. Just wanted to say, Mrs. Nicholson does an outstanding job. I support her with that, and having done this in a previous district. But our errors, especially since we've moved to central registration, have gone down. By errors, I'm talking about data errors, enter and so forth. We streamlined the process. It's working really nicely, but just want to give you an update in regards to that. Mr. Rich shared out the Curriculum Hub. Just let you guys know we've continued to do routine updates on that and refine that process. It's ongoing. So that's something that's very fluid. As you go on there, you'll see our teachers have done a ton of work. And it's really neat from the standpoint to have it instead of, when I was teaching, you just put it in there, put it in your binder, and it went on, it went in on your shelf. We have something living, breathing that can be adjusted. So kudos to our teachers for all that. Budget planning, I've just been sitting through various demonstrations and so forth to assess some of our needs and or what we'll bring to the state of Laurel, if any. So definitely been thinking about that. And lastly, I always like to share how many tickets we've had in any given month. November with the holidays, we're a little bit less than last month we had approximately 100 more tickets. But we had 72 tickets. Our first response time, which means when we answer the ticket, we say, yeah, we understand that you have an issue, was 3 hours and 8 minutes. And the ticket close time was 3 days, no minutes. So they're both right at above or below, right below or right at industry standards. So any questions?
And just for new board members, this PIMS is an important thing for the government, but it's a bad thing because all it does is collect information and gives to the government. They have no business, but it's required. So I always like to give my little.
It's true.
So, any questions for Dr. Ray? Ms. Conrad.
Continuing to work on annual reports. I closed out last year, closed out the cafeteria fund this past month, and starting to gear up for work on the school-based access program. That's another annual report that's due by the 15th of this month. So starting to work on that, and started working on the first step of the budget, which is the resolution that we'll be passing later this evening, and I'll talk about that. For that motion.
Any questions for Ms. Conrad? Mr. Rich?
It's nothing worse for everybody.
Okay. Item 3, reporting from standing committees of the board. I don't think we have any right now. Any information reports?
I'll just note that under the information reports on board docs are where all the monthly reports are, the enrollment, tax collection, budget reports that are on there. That's where that stuff is all housed, yeah, even on previous agendas as well. FYI stuff.
And item C is the opioid settlement. Is that Mr. Mangino?
Yeah, I can explain that real quick. I'm sure you're all aware of the opioid lawsuits, Purdue Pharma, which the courts are involved in the settlement and bankruptcy. Just to give you an idea of how much money Purdue Pharma made, this McKinsey and Company was their marketing and advertising group, which got sued and is just in the process of settling a class action suit for hundreds of millions of dollars. We're eligible for that, but it's set up a little differently than a lot of class action suits. Instead of paying a certain sum of money to every school district, what they're doing is they put this lump sum of money together, and you can apply for money. So if we accept the class action settlement, that would enable us to apply for money from this fund for whatever purposes we wanted to. The alternative would be to opt out and say, sue McKinsey and Company ourselves, which is just, prohibitive. I mean, we couldn't do that. The discovery, the expert witnesses, the legal fees would be ridiculous. I think we've talked a little bit about, opportunities to apply for money from this fund, and that's really the only way that we can go. So I would recommend accepting the settlement and applying for money.
So this is different than when we were on the vaping.
Yeah, like Juul, that it's a similar kind of suit, class action suit, in which there's multiple plaintiffs, and that's really the only way you can go into these cases in which you need literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in expert witnesses and things like that. So Juul is another class action in which we will get a sum of money from. This would make us eligible to apply for money.
Do we have to vote on this tonight?
Mr. Rich, I don't see a place to vote on this,
I
but
wasn't sure if it needed a motion or
Yeah.
not, so I can put it on next month, or we can just.
Let's put it on next month, let everybody digest this month. It's information for this month, we'll vote next month.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, item 5, comments or questions from the floor relative to any agenda items. I need a motion to approve the minutes for the November 8th, 2023 regular meeting of the board.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Nemo, second by Mr. Kuth. Any discussion on the motion? Any abstentions? Any negative votes? All in favor? Motion carries. Now, usually, next month, we'll have committee assignments, and, like the treasury report, the head of finance would take that. Tonight, I'm just gonna take all of them, and we'll go through them. The other thing is, we've got away from doing a motion at a time. Maybe I'll take a page or a section at a time, 4 or 5 motions, and then we'll vote on that, if that's all right. Item 7 is the treasurer's report. The balance as of October 31st is $197,116.12. You can look over those big numbers yourself. Any questions on item A? Item B, the investment report, and I believe you'll have that under board docs. Yep. Attachment right there. Any questions on item B? And item 8, under bill listings, you'll have a list of the general fund bills. And item B, list of food service bills. So I would like to ask for motion for 7A, B, and 8A.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Booth, second by Mr. Memo. Any discussion on the motion? Any abstentions? Any negative votes? All in favor? The only reason I ask for you to say aye or yes is because Mr. Mangino says I have to have a voice vote, so.
Yeah, and I think just maybe so the new board members know, and you may have discussed this too, is what happens is when we take the voice vote, if someone would vote no, then we would typically do a roll call. So we can distinguish who's for it and who's against.
And some speak up.
Item 9, board action items, personnel, retirements and resignations.
I mean, you could vote on the whole thing, but I wouldn't chunk
Right.
with anything else. I'd go with myself.
Okay, on the retirements resignations, we will take Mr. Hill separately. The other two are resignations of Adriana Stellar, cafeteria, and Ridge Bachman, cafeteria substitute. Item B is rescind the resignation of Melissa Novel, our school nurse. Item C is update compensation plan for the school nurse. Item D, hire a full-time custodian, will be Dawn Wilson, full-time custodian maintenance, at a rate of $18 an hour. Item E, junior girls high track coach, approve the employment of Heather McKissick as the girls junior high track coach at the rate of $2,000, step 1 of the collective bargaining agreement for the 23-24 school year. Item F, professional development workshop seminars. Approve the following professional development workshop seminars. Miss Kelly Jones at the IU, December 1st, 2023, academic game equations training across the district for a substitute and mileage. Mr. Dan Swervely, Melissa Armstrong, Jennifer Changway, and Miss Carrie Mason and Sheraton at the Sheraton Station Square, Pittsburgh, February 4th through the 7th for Title I Improvement School Conference at the cost of the district for registration of $475 each, 2 rooms, 3 nights of $816, dinners, breakfast, lunch included, substitutes, and mileage for a total of $3,478.50. What's it? Item 3, Dr. Robert Lee to the IU for introduction to IA and potential for future building capacity on February 15th, 2024 for IA students and adults on March 7th, 2024, and IA policy, ethics, and legal considerations April 11th, and cost the district for registration $250 each, a total of $750 and mileage. I'd like to put those into the motion.
Just, you can leave Seth in there, but I'm gonna probably anticipate that Seth's gonna abstain on 9A. And then, so you can keep them all grouped like you like to do, but I'm gonna see into the future. I don't think he's gonna vote on the first one.
Okay. So we'll be voting on item 9A, B, C, D, E, and F.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Booth, second by Mr. Memo. Any discussion on the motion? Any abstentions? Mr. Hill?
So to be clear, Seth, can you articulate where the number and the letter for which you're abstaining? And just for the record, if you abstain, there's an abstention form, correct? And he'll complete an abstention form. So you're voting on all the other pieces except mine. I'm asking.
Yes.
Okay.
All those in abstentions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Do you need any other information, Mrs. Conrad?
Item G, additions to the volunteer and non-instructional substitute listing for the 2023 school year. Policy adoption, approve the adoption of attached policy 819, suicide awareness, prevention, and response. Item 10B, first reading of policy 202. What is 202?
That's eligibility of non-residential students. So we're finally gonna articulate in writing relative to employees who live outside the district, the eligibility for their kids to attend here, as well as vocational agricultural students from other districts who wish to attend here. I believe I emailed out the policy and highlighted the changes in yellow.
Item C, internship guidance, approve Olivia Cohen to complete her guidance counselor internship hours for Slippery Rock University under Miss Michelle McClellan and Mr. Matt Bertone for the spring of 2024 semester. Item D, annual gag clause. That would be ratify the attachment gag clause attesting agreement with Rashidi Agency, which is our insurance people. This agreement is to assist the district in compliance and transparency provisions of the Consolidated Appropriations Act 1 by attesting that the district has not entered into a contract with healthcare providers, third-party administrators, or other service providers that would restrict the plan or user from providing, accessing, or sharing certain information about the provider price and quality and identified. The first extension is due by December 31st, 2023, and covers the period beginning December 27th, 2020, through the date of the extension. These extensions will now be due annually by December 31st.
There's no cost associated with machine. It's, something new. The federal government is requiring.
Ooh, good. You know it's good then.
From the government, and I'm here to help.
Item E, authorize the district to proceed with requests for proposals for bids in the following: the water softener project at the middle high school. Mr. Nevada, you want to just real quick for the new members what that was?
We had a water inspection by the DEP. The elementary is clear, the high school has some signs of manganese. It's not harmful, but our levels are rising. They're getting close to the area where we have to change our water treatment here at the high school. And we're looking into getting some bids on that moving forward this coming spring. Just a quick overview, we have space, I showed Mr. Redford, we're looking to put it in the basement here at the high school.
And it is a fairly pricey project.
Yes, the biggest thing will be, we will probably have to chlorinate our water here at the high school. We have been doing it at the elementary for 20-some years. To attain the contact time, we will have to have some piping ran so we meet the contact criteria. So we will probably have some extensive piping possibly underneath the driveway out towards the in the fields by the middle softball field possibly. We'll have to have several feet put in so we can meet that criteria.
So what he's saying is we've got to pump the water away from the building. Now to have enough contact time and the water's going to turn around and come back. Makes sense to me.
We did the elementary with our tank we have down there. Tim was down, you remember that? We just got under the old criteria, so that tank meets our needs down there. So they're not meeting now because the state is changing requirements. The government, excuse me, not the state.
Any questions on the water software system?
They're gonna help with the new funding mandate, right? First and most with the check.
Yes.
So,
The second one, we have to prove that this one.
Well, no, you're approving us going out.
Okay,
So the food service request for proposal comes around every 5 years.
Right.
And we're due this year, so we're gonna put that out in January to start the process, but it won't actually, we won't vote on that until probably April, we get to June. Once we have our bids in. Just so everyone knows, that's we have nutrition group here at Laurel. We've had them for the past 9 years, this is our 10th year with them. And each, like I said, every 5 years that has to be bid. And you can have there's a couple different configurations. You can have the food service director that just be the only nutrition employee, and they take care of all the ordering, they take care of everything, including the management of the staff. And you can have the employees, which is our model, be district employees. Or you could have the entire operation be run by nutrition group. They would be both the director and the employees, but we don't have that currently. Might be something in the future, but at this point, we're gonna bid it the same way that we have been doing with,
RFP both ways, so they're just.
it'll be not a complete alternate, but it'll be in the notes that might be a future.
when we put this out for bids, how many other companies other than Nutrition Inc.?
Normally Mets will bid, occasionally there'll be one other one, but there's a whole list of people that I am required to send it to, and usually we get Mets and Nutrition.
And the whole reason for the Nutrition Inc. is just to make sure that we're meeting the federal guidelines, is that it?
So we can receive that federal subsidy.
well, part of it is too, I think they take care of the ordering, and if there's any unused or things that go bad, I mean, they're more responsible for that than us.
Well, and also their purchase acquisition volume versus ours, et cetera. I don't know of anybody the only district I know locally who's completely independent is the Newcastle School District. They don't prescribe to anybody. Their managers theirs, their employees are theirs. But Laurel, LCCTC, Neshannock are definitely nutrition group. Shenango is Mets. Mohawk is. So I would say that it's regionally in Western Pennsylvania, it's probably a 2-to-1 split. Nutrition group.
You said Newcastle, they run their own cafeteria.
The employees are their own and the managers are their own, yes.
So the managers there source the food and make sure that it
Yes.
meets the.
Yes.
Do you know that are they sourcing some of their food locally at Newcastle? I know that's a pretty, I don't want to put you on the spot. I mean,
I can't answer it on the spot, but I can get that answer.
yeah, just be.
And I could also get the answer, what steps does someone who's not affiliated with a larger purchaser, how does that impact another thing that impacts them is they are community eligibility provision, which is a different ball game due to their cafeteria operates in the black due to their economically disadvantaged and due to their direct certification through the community eligibility provision. So but they still have to comply with that. And then also with the community eligibility provision, I'm familiar with it. I've been associated with it in a couple different places. There's certain push outs that you have to have, different fruits and different vegetables. So to try to get kids to experiment with different foods. But yes, a very long-winded answer to your short question is they're their own person. I can get some more information on how that works.
I guess the reason I'm asking the question was there an issue with our kids selling coffee on Fridays?
So that is, we cannot use something that competes with the same time that we're serving meals. So we can't have the coffee shop open to students when we are serving breakfast. We couldn't serve cookies, if you will, during lunches. We couldn't serve, meat sticks during lunches because that's in direct competition with their opportunity for a nutritious breakfast or nutritious lunch. So They started out with just literally pushing a cart first period and taking orders primarily among faculty. They come in here, the girls would get something. And it's been successful, and it, quite frankly, got too successful, too quick. What we're looking at, and I've had some email conversations, I haven't had full-blown conversations with the admin team, talk to people individually about it, is what does that look like moving forward? We can offer, but the framework is looking at the following. How does that life skills schedule work? And when would be the most opportune time to have it open, not compete with breakfast and not compete with kids bringing, because another thing that we have happens, we got 40, we're telling kids don't bring in drinks from the outside, then we're giving selling like 40 coffees and they're off the first period. So there's building managerial issues, there's also there's inclusive issues, LRE, with Ms. Bell, so it's on the administrative radar to do something with that, but not lose it.
2 points, and I'll probably forget about the second one, because that's the way I am. But first is I never, I had the learning support kids come out to the farm, and this is long. I mean, her level of dedication and thoroughness, and as well as the folks that that had aides with them. These kids, like people, you always hear about athletes and stuff, and I come from that honestly, I feel like they aren't the ones that need advocated for. They're gonna be fine. I mean, they're just gonna be, they have no problem socializing. They walk in the building, everybody knows who person X is. But I didn't realize what a positive impact putting all of the regular ed kids around them with this coffee. Like this is a lot of those kids' Super Bowl. Like they are all in talking with kids. It's just really it's really awesome. That being said, I segue into that. Maybe that's something when we put that out for bid and we negotiate a contract, it's not a boilerplate contract where they dictate all of the things to us. We say, yeah, just so you know, we have some clubs and we have some learning support initiatives, and on Friday we do this. If you want to sign the dotted line and make $1,000 off us, you're not going to worry about our kids having a good time on Fridays. I think that is all part of negotiations. If they like making however much money they make off us, I don't see why
That could never be in black and white because it's a federal regulation.
That is a federal regulation.
We're accepting
There's another civics.
We're here
lesson
from the
for everybody.
federal government.
My God.
We're here from the federal government. We're here to help.
I mean, these folks, they just took an oath to uphold the Constitution. Ain't none of that in there, by the way. None of it.
So you want freedom of choice in your coffee provided?
I don't even need any more words, just freedom. I mean, that's all. Just a little bit.
Okay, can I have a motion for item 9G, item 10A, A, B, C, D, and E? Motion by Mrs. West, second by. Mr. West. Any discussion on the motion? Any negative votes, abstentions, all in favor? Motion carries. Item 10F is field trips. Approve and ratify the following field trips: Miss Anna Antuono and Madison Clark, and Mr. Matt Pertow, 26 National Honor Society, National Honor. Let's skip some. No, on Society students to Sunrise Nursing Home of McCandless for service hours on 12/15/23. Request the district for transportation and substitutes for Miss Antuono and Mrs. Clark. Any questions on item G, Act 1 resolution? Approve the attached resolution 122023-2, indicating the Laurel School District will not raise any tax rates for the 24-25 fiscal school year in excess of Act 1 adjusted index of 7.2%. Mrs.
So this is the first action, for the 24-25 budget that the board will have to take, there's 3 total. This is the first, and there's the second will be in May, and the third will be in June, which will be the final budget. This resolution, Act 1 provides a 2-pronged approach to budgeting. You can either sign a resolution that says you won't raise taxes above the index. Doesn't mean you won't raise taxes, you just won't go above the index. Or you can do a preliminary budget, which includes a tax increase above the index. We would qualify for an additional $154,000 roughly. We wanted to raise above the index. Our index this year is pretty substantial, 7.2%. I put a piece of paper at your places that has a bunch of tax information. I'm certainly not going to go through all of that with you, but you can, in the middle of that, right underneath the green, you can see where our index history has been. Normally it's between 3 and 4%. This year it's 7.2, and it's directly related to inflation and CPI. So that percentage allows us to raise over 1 mil this year if we would want to. Last year
Each generates how much for the district?
roughly $360,000. So I put a few scenarios on there if we would go to no increase. We did have a small increase in our assessed value, so we would still gain money even with no tax increase, no raise in millage rate. And then I put a couple other options for halfway, all the way, just for your information. Those options are available to you by signing this resolution or approving this resolution this evening. If you don't want to go this route, I'll have to scramble and get a preliminary budget together and add additionally this much, the 360 plus 150, to be able to go against, go into the referendum exceptions, what those exceptions are called, 154,000, and see if the state will approve those. Based on the prior 7 years of the board's actions, I chose the resolution, especially since we had such a high index anyway. And since we hadn't raised taxes for 6 years until last year, I thought that would be the safe approach. So that's kind of Act 1 in a nutshell.
Ms. Conrad, what, remind me, our actual budget short come in the black, what were we at as of June 30th?
So the past year that just closed,
Yes.
we actually made a little bit of money.
Okay.
Like
Well, I just wanted that as
Yeah.
per reference to
Right.
folks go.
So if you would go back to last month's agenda under the information report, you can see the history of our fund balance. You can see where we closed out last year. It's kind of a point in time, June 30th of every year is what we look at as our fund balance designation. So that's on there. You can go through there and see. Now, we have a significant deficit in our budget this year for 23-24, and that's mainly due to the roof project, which was $930,000. So we have to show a deficit, so we take that money out of our fund balance that's earmarked for construction and capital projects, and that's how it works. So we'll spend that money above what we're bringing in because that's contained in our, like, the fund balance is kind of a savings account, just to make it a little more simple term. So, but this for this evening is just a resolution. It's pretty standard. It just says above the 7.2% allowed by. And Act 1 was passed in 2006. It's still governing how we approach our budget.
I could share just a couple nuts and bolts with the board. If you could reference her handout, look to the highlighted side. So last year at 14.6225 mils, that was about $4.5 million. If you do nothing with our increase in assessment, we're going to generate about $80,000 more from Regis. Correct. Okay. If you choose to go halfway to the index, we're going to get a little more than $250,000. And if you would go the whole way, we would be closer to $500,000. Relative to what Lance asked about, we do have some ESSER money that's going away. Okay. We aren't anticipating state of Laurel some big projects, but over the last 5 years, our fund balance has gone from around 8-some million to under 6.
We're at 7.5.
We're at 7.5. but we have a $900,000 hole. So as of June 30th, we'll be about $1 million left. So,
We can still raise it to the full index,
yes,
not be technically raising taxes like we're not.
well, no. So if you leave everything alone, you're gonna get $80,000 more to what you're saying.
Right.
But if you go halfway like we did last year, we're gonna get 263. If we go the whole way, we're gonna go 446. So, but that is, all you're saying right now is this is your range of options. I don't want anybody new to think you're raising taxes tonight in the first hour that you've been a board member. Also, I'd like you to look at the other side. So this gets into our local effort, which was part of the issue last year, okay? Under the new funding formula, our maintenance of effort is calculated into what we get. Don't ask me how, I'm not good enough to do that, but it is a fact, okay? So if you look throughout time, all right, for the last 20 years, there's only one guy right now been around here that long. For the last 20 years, we've barely gone up 4.5 mils. That's a great stewardship of taxpayers' dollars. And if you look over the last 20 years, we've been no higher than second from the bottom as far as cumulative mills. And so if you look at 23-24 millage at 14.6225, if everything remains the same, then we will still be second from the bottom. Even if we increased it by a complete mill, we would be competitive with Union, Wilmington, and Shenango. So, I think, Mr. Redfoot, you and 20 years worth of board members, your maintenance of effort is there, but I also think that we're still a tax value here.
Mohawk, yes. Didn't you guys build baseball fields?
They just got a bigger fund balance.
You guys have a lot of housing growth out there, though, don't you?
But there's no industry.
But no, I'm saying though, your tax base is increasing. There's some decent construction.
One more thing, just because I hesitated to put this on this evening, but I had to. There is a Act One timeline put together by the state, it's generated, based on when the elections are. So we had to pass this by the 4th of January. Sometimes we do it in December, sometimes we do it in January, depending on when the election is and the time frame.
Well, this gives us flexibility. Okay, I think I was at item 10E, F, and G.
We don't have a motion or a second.
No, we do not.
So moved.
I thought it was just F and G though.
I was gonna say,
What's that?
It's just F and G.
I think it's just F and G, right?
Okay. So I have a motion by Mr. Leno, second by Mr. Coop.
Yeah, very active down there.
Any discussions?
We're motivated, Mr. Mangino.
Any
Thank you, sir.
negative votes? All in favor? Item 11, new business. Any comments or questions from the board relative to non-agenda items? I did have two things I wanted to mention to new board members. It was a pretty decent meeting tonight, but we do agree to disagree. So, anytime you have a problem, be like Lance, speak up, but be like me and try and take it nicely. The other thing.
Wait, so you bit your tongue with me tonight?
The other thing is, there are no stupid questions. I ask stupid questions after 20-some years. So if you want to know something, ask a question. Don't walk out of the room thinking you know the answer. They're not really good. Because if somebody asks you a question, you want to have the right answer. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Redfoot, we had two comments online. One we answered, that was from Mrs. Disman asking about the coffee cart, but the other one's from Mrs. Cooper. She's asking if there are qualifications for the Hall of Fame board in the lobby area of the high school gym. She specifically references Mr. Nimmo, who was at West Virginia University for football and NFL, and his picture's not on the wall.
So that's a definite yes, and I've been trying to get something done since 2016 on that. It's currently in the hands of Mrs. Columbus and Mr. Locke. We want to make sure that our numbers and who we're saying is accurate. There's been a few different thought processes, Division I, All-American, there's all, but what we settled on, a standard of if you're in the Lawrence County Hall of Fame, we're gonna gather your picture and get you up there. That seems to be a universal standard that we can adhere to. But it's in the hands of Mrs. Columbus and Mr.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? Second. Motion by Mr. Coop, second by Mr. Hill. All in favor? I did talk to you.